Hello, welcome to Carol's Books and Story Time. I've got a story for you from my childhood, which is a very, very long time ago now, and it comes from a book called Uncle Arthur's Bedtime Stories, which I had as a child. My parents bought it for me, and it's called Amy's Gift. Arabella, said little Amy lovingly as she laid her doll in its red and black pram and carefully tucked the covers in around it. I'm sure that there's not another doll in all the wide world as lovely as you. Arabella did not reply, but laid herself back serenely on the white pillowcase and closed her eyes as if perfectly contented with her lot. I think we'll go for a walk now, Arabella, said Amy, and pulling the garden gate shut behind her, she set forth with her precious charge down the street. Arabella, said Amy sternly, I do hope you behave yourself while we are downtown. And mind, if you cry, you won't get any sweeties. Needless to say, Arabella did not cry and indeed behaved herself as few babies do. Amy enjoyed the walk immensely and feeling very proud of herself, as little girls do when they go out with with a dolly pram all alone. On reaching the end of the street, Amy met a poor little girl carrying the dirtiest doll you ever saw in your life. Arabella, whispered Amy, I am so glad you're not as dirty as that. The poor little girl seemed to love her dirty, ragged doll just as much as Amy loved Arabella. She was hugging it very tightly to herself and telling it that it was the most loveliest doll in all the world. At this moment, just as the poor little girl started to cross the road, a huge lorry dashed around the corner. The little girl jumped back and saved herself, but in her fright, she let go of her precious doll, which rolled away underneath the truck and was crushed to fragments. The poor little girl burst into tears as she saw what had happened to her precious doll. It was the only one she had ever had. Amy's loving little heart was touched immediately. What could she do? Nobody was about, and it seemed that it was up to her to comfort the poor little girl. Running to her side, she put her hand on the little girl's shoulder and told her not to cry. But the little girl cried harder. Amy looked at her dolly pram and thought of her beloved Arabella. Could she? Should she? Could she? Poor little girl, she said. Please don't cry any more. You may have my own Arabella. She is the most beautifulest doll in all the world, and she will surely make you happy again. Giving Arabella one last hug and kiss, she handed her over to the poor little girl, who could scarcely believe her eyes. For me? She said. For me? Yes, said Amy, for keeps. And Amy turned away and ran back home as fast as she could before she could change her mind. And she sat down on the front doorstep and thought about all that had happened and looked with tears into the empty dolly pram. But somebody had seen what had happened. High up in one of the nearby houses, a very rich lady had been looking out of the window and had watched the loving deed. A few days later, the lady called at Amy's house with a long brown paper parcel in her arms. She said it was a new doll for a little girl who'd given her own away. Amy was so happy she didn't know what to do. She felt that Jesus must have sent this wonderful parcel, and Mother said she thought so too. Amy called the new doll Isabella to remind her of the one she had loved so much before. I hope you enjoyed that story. Bye.